New this morning, while the agreement is already signed and the Iran ceasefire clock is officially running, there will be no ceremonial in-person signing of the Memorandum of Understanding today, as was planned. Vice President J.D. Vance and Iranian officials were supposed to be meeting in Switzerland, but that's been called off. It's a tenuous start to the 60 days of talks over Iran's nuclear program, the Strait of Hormuz, and potentially lasting peace. Israel already calling the agreement a dangerous setback, and this morning its airstrikes in southern Lebanon, which go against the deal, reportedly killed at least 18 people. News Nation is covering this story from all angles as the 60-day countdown for a peace deal ticks forward. International correspondent Robert Sherman is in Doha, Qatar. But we begin this morning with Washington correspondent Raquel Martin at the White House. Raquel, White House officials released a statement about this abrupt change.
Marky, that's right. The trip was canceled seemingly at the last minute, and with almost no warning, dozens of White House officials, advanced staffers, and credentialed media were already in the small town of Obergen, Switzerland, expecting Vice President Vance to arrive today. Even at Joint Base Andrews, Vance's staff and a traveling group of journalists were left waiting on the tarmac when the cancellation was announced. A White House spokesperson said overnight, quote, "The logistics of these negotiations have never been simple or predictable. As of now, the vice president is not departing tonight." The announcement from the White House came after a Hezbollah-allied TV network in the Middle East reported that Iran was delaying sending its delegation to Switzerland because of Israel's ongoing military actions in Lebanon. Notably, the first clause of the signed Memorandum of Understanding calls for the, quote, "immediate and permanent termination of military operations there." President Trump and Iran's president have already signed the memorandum, and the 60-day negotiating period began Thursday. The purpose of the meeting was to start negotiating everything the initial agreement did not settle. That includes how much uranium Iran may enrich and the dispute over Iran's nuclear facility. It also does not settle the future of Iran's missiles or its support for armed groups across the region. Vice President Vance also says any American troop reduction would only return U.S. forces to pre-conflict levels, not remove them from the Middle East. President Trump, for his part, praised the deal he signed, saying continuing the bombing could have kept the strait closed, disrupted the world's oil supply, and even triggered a global depression. Marky.
Well, it would be interesting to see what this weekend has in store, just considering these talks have now been called off, Raquel. But Israel, let's talk about Israel for a moment. They fought alongside the United States. We launched this operation with them. So why are they now so angry about this agreement, and what are they saying this morning?
Well, Marky, Israel believes the fight ended before the job was actually finished. Israeli officials and analysts fear it could give Iran sanctions relief, time to rebuild, and more room to negotiate. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is signaling Israel will keep acting to prevent an Iranian nuclear breakout, but the Trump administration is now publicly warning Israel that it cannot undercut the agreement and loudly criticize the Israeli leaders bashing this deal. Take a listen.
If I was in the cabinet of the Israeli government, I might not be attacking the only powerful ally that I have anywhere left in the entire world. Over the last 3 months, 2/3 of the defensive weapons that have protected your homeland have been built by American hands and paid for by American tax dollars.
Now, among the headlines coming from Tel Aviv and Jerusalem this morning, pundits in Israel calling the deal a catastrophic capitulation to Iran. One analyst even saying it was a, quote, diplomatic October 7th and a disaster for the country. Marky.
Raquel Martin live for us at the White House. Thank you. Let me now bring in News Nation international correspondent Robert Sherman, who's live for us in Qatar. Robert, good morning to you. Let's discuss more just about these latest Israeli strikes in Lebanon today. This MOU specifically addresses military action and territorial sovereignty in Lebanon. It's point 1 of this memorandum. Are we already at risk of this deal being derailed before talks even start?
Yeah, you've identified the key point here, Marky, is that the ceasefire here in the Gulf between Iran and the United States is directly tied to the situation in Lebanon. And what we're tracking here in the region, well, overnight, what is being viewed on the ground in Israel as escalations after you saw 4 IDF troops being killed overnight, and just a short while ago, another 4 IDF troops being injured, according to Israeli officials. Well, now you've seen new rounds of strikes and an escalation, intensification of strikes going towards southern Lebanon as well, with the message becoming very clear from the Israeli military. They are not withdrawing from southern Lebanon, from that security zone, no matter what this memorandum of understanding looks like, viewing the threat to northern Israeli communities as being too severe. And we have heard from many in the north of Israel who don't view as though a ceasefire has ever been handed down to them over the last couple of months. That's why they say they will continue pressing forward and retaliating against any Hezbollah action. Vice President J.D. Vance was asked about all of these strikes and the continued kinetic warfare taking place there. And here's what he said.
Israel has the right to defend itself, but fundamentally, the Israelis, just like everybody else, have to respect this peace process that is fundamentally good for them and good for the entire region. What the president gets grown frustrated sometimes is that we seem to be right on the cusp of a major breakthrough in the agreement, and then all of a sudden, there's a major explosion that goes off in a civilian population center in Beirut, and a lot of people who have nothing to do with Hezbollah lose their lives. That's not acceptable.
A big, important element of the ceasefire holding is keeping the Strait of Hormuz open, which, according to the president, just opened this week after that memorandum of understanding was signed. Our News Nation team going out onto the waterways there, where we can confirm that there are some ships that are going through the Strait of Hormuz, a small number, many still holding and awaiting, not believing it's safe to make that crossing yet. There's over 500 of them on either side of the Strait of Hormuz. And what I would underscore here, Marky, is going up and down the coastline, you can see that it is very much so considered an active war zone and a very tense environment. Along the shoreline, you see air defense systems protecting all of the infrastructure. You see radar systems keeping a watchful eye. Because remember, at its closest point, just 21 miles is the width of the Strait of Hormuz. These are very short and narrow corridors in order to traverse here, which is why there's such heightened tension that exists in the region. I would say that everyone who we heard from and met there, very uptight about the situation, hopeful that the Strait of Hormuz stays open because it does have such an impact on the economy, not just here in the region, but worldwide. But people very skeptical about what the coming weeks will bring. Marky.
Yeah, the fragility of all this can't be underscored enough. Robert Sherman live for us in Qatar this morning. Thank you. Let me now bring in Brett Bruin. He's president of the Global Situation Room and a former U.S. diplomat as well. Brett, I always appreciate your time. Let me just start with the fact that these Switzerland talks and the ceremonial signing, those were canceled. How consequential is that for negotiations when the clock is ticking on this 60-day window?
Yeah, Marky, I think it reflects the fact that the process was not put in place for implementation. The details just were not there. And what you saw this week, what you heard this week, especially from Vice President Vance, was a lot of spin. And then you go to the 1.5-page memorandum of understanding or concept of a plan, and it doesn't reflect what we're hearing. And so I think what we're seeing in the breakdown of what ought to have been a pretty protocol formality laden event are the Iranians saying, look, we are not seeing the evidence, whether it's in Lebanon, whether it's in your own words, that you are abiding by the deal that we negotiated. And there has long been, Marky, this chasm between what Trump claims and what is actually in some of these deals. And now I think that, hen is coming home to roost.
Yeah, you and Robert both bring up what the vice president has said just in the last 24 hours. Vance has made it explicitly clear that Lebanon is part of this MOU agreement. That's getting pushback from Israeli leaders, of course. So now we're in this position of having to, how would you characterize it, police our own ally just in order to keep Iran at the table. Is that sustainable for 60 days with everything else going on as well?
I think it's a major flaw in how the Trump administration undertook these negotiations. You cannot force another country, even an ally as close as Israel, to abide by an agreement that they were not party to. And you heard that yesterday from the podium in the White House briefing room. The vice president is trying to implore the Israelis to abide by an agreement that the U.S. negotiated. And Marky, we are seeing examples throughout this conflict, including with our European allies, where Trump and his team are learning hard diplomatic lessons. Yes, the U.S. has a lot of military power, we have a lot of diplomatic power, but we still do rely on allies. We still do need others at the table. We cannot simply ride roughshod over them and expect that they're going to go along with us.
Before I get to some new sound I want to play for you, just really quickly, you think this all derails the deal before talks even start?
I don't think it derails it. I do think it gives more leverage to Tehran, and that's worrying, Marky.
I played a little bit of this right off the top, Brett, but President Trump says in a brand new interview that there are no limits on his power after what he's calling Iran's unconditional surrender. Take a listen.
What have you learned about not just the exercise of power, but the limits on your power as a result of the conflict?
There are no limits.
No limit.
No, I haven't learned that lesson yet. I know there are, but, there are no limits.
The MOU doesn't look like unconditional surrender.
Well, it really probably is unconditional surrender.
Yeah, what do you make of the president's remarks there that Iran has unconditionally surrendered, especially just given the backdrop of everything we've been talking about, that Iran isn't even coming to the table this weekend?
Yeah, Marky, let me be absolutely clear on this. From a diplomatic standpoint, this was the U.S. capitulating to many of Iran's demands. It is not clear, even from this MOU, what we got other than a return to the status quo before we undertook this war, and it's coming at a high price, the $300 billion, the relief on the sanctions front. I mean, Trump himself was extraordinarily critical of less sanctions relief that was in the old deal that Obama negotiated. You can try to spin this, every which way, but when you look at the cold, hard facts on the ground, this is a major, major loss for Trump. And it is also, Marky, going to cost him a lot of influence on the international stage because others are watching how he capitulated on this.
Yeah, and a lot of cold, hard cash as well. Brett Bruin, thank you so much for your time as always. Have a great weekend, and I have a feeling you and I will be talking again first thing Monday morning. See you again soon, sir. And still ahead on Morning in America, Democratic